Criticism in bad faith is disheartening. I understand that it can often be done by those who get passionate but fail to see past their bias, but that doesn't really make it any better. It's difficult to share something you enjoy, even if you're presenting it in a somewhat ironic manner, and have it get unrelentingly shit on over stuff that doesn't even apply, simply because the person doing it is actively looking for anything to call bad. And yeah, I get it, public opinion can be very negative about something. It's one thing to agree with that and pick apart a work on that basis, but to do so incredibly actively to someone you know to enjoy it? Last night, it had made me question why I had bothered to share it in the first place. In the moment, I wouldn't have been able to tell you why, though I could certainly say that I wouldn't do it again, something which hasn't changed. In hindsight, it's because I was passionate about it. And is that any different from anything else I've ever shared? Any different from anything that others have ever shared? On January 20th of 2013, Mr. DragonBoy96 uploaded a video entitled My Custom SMBX Level Mario Meets Sonic? ? This video marked the beginning of his successful creepypasta-based video series, which would go on until October of 2018. It's hard to attribute anything but passion to that series surviving for as long as it had, and even if the quality of the levels, writing, or videos weren't that high, the dedication to it is admirable. Dragon Boy is unapologetically himself in many ways, and the expression found in the Meets Sonic or Meets Tails doll sagas is endearing if nothing else. On December 3rd of the same year, just 33 days after the finale to his long-running series, he posted a video effectively apologizing for all of the levels he had made. I found the video quite a while later, but felt somewhat concerned about it and wrote a very lengthy comment. Given that the comment was written more than a couple years ago, it's surprising how much I still agree with it. Essentially, my point was that he's very passionate about making Mario levels, and he shouldn't let criticism get in the way of that, even if it's valid and can offer valuable insight. I can't speak much on Dragon Boy's work or the SMBX community, which apparently hated his levels so much, but I do wish to highlight him as an interesting individual. He put tons of effort into this project over 6 years, and he seems interested to continue based on the release of his most recent video. That aside, I don't think his earlier attempt should be dismissed, nor should it be written off as irredeemable. Whether or not he did so in a traditional manner, or one that many would even find very good, he still made a series based on his vision that told the story he wanted to tell. The writing may be clumsy, or the visuals wonky, or maybe the remix he made still has me curious what his process was 7 years later because it's a fucking enigma to me. By the way, that's playing right now. But I still think there's a lot of value in an uncompromising presentation of one's idea. A work of art may not be good or digestible or even logical based on the conventions that the viewer has come to see as required for a quality work, but I'd argue that doesn't fucking matter. For the purpose of self-improvement, be it for the original author or those who wish to learn from the work, it's a fine thing to criticize those aspects. In the case of Dragon Boy, I don't think he was attempting anything avant-garde, so it's very fair to do so in his case, but I can't agree that widely lambasting something with sincere intent is ever a good thing. I can only hope that didn't happen to Dragon Boy. Of course, a topic like this with the intro this video has is inevitably going to lead back to Y2K. That's what sparked this whole thing after all, and now I've got a barely edited scripted ramble about something that frustrates me. I played the game in a call yesterday night, and there were some asinine assumptions made about the intent and execution that I fundamentally did not understand. I'd like to show this scene in particular. If you're unaware of what happened here, the main character, Alex, has just trained with his friends for a month to attempt to stop a parallel version of himself from destroying his reality. He failed and they all died, so now he's traveling to soul space, don't worry about what that is, while devastated by the events. He eventually makes his way to a planet where other versions of him reside. Watch this and listen to the music. This first parallel Alex will explain a bit further.
I don't even know what we do here in the soul space. Ah, I understand. Well, we've got a bunch of the latest games from each reality, some dope beats, so just kick back and enjoy. I was with my friends, and then something happened. I was myself, but I was also a meteorite. We're all dead, I think. Shit, are you serious? Of course I'm serious! What kind of question is that? Well, none of us have ever seen you through to the end before. You're the first, I believe. Usually we leave our body when she comes to get us. Wait. Who is she? Well, the Ascension 2000. She appears to us, warns us, shows us what we're gonna do, and we get the hell out of reality before anyone gets hurt. I didn't do that! I thought I could fight it! Wow, you're a brave one, but, It's impossible. How could the decent few of us actually stand a chance? There are just too many of them. Too many of who? Look, I think it would be best if you just relaxed a bit. You're gonna give yourself a panic attack. Whatever you do, just don't go to the other side of the rock. We're not allowed to go over there.
Supposedly, the music here was unfitting because it was an emotional scene. Frankly, I don't see it. I think the music works perfectly well here, and it seems pretty clear to me that it's tongue-in-cheek. The other Alexes are all super casual and just kinda chilling, and they're all but cracking jokes at protagonist Alex. The goofy music just accentuates that. To claim that it was trying to be a tearjerker is fucking preposterous. I don't even think the person who said this would disagree, but again, they were actively looking for reasons to shit on the game and were criticizing it in bad faith. I'm not saying that every work is good or that people should disregard common practice or whatever. All I'm saying is that people should keep an open mind when discussing or viewing this sort of thing so they can avoid this kind of pitfall. What could have been some fun shenanigans with a couple friends was instead a miserable experience of sitting around hearing absurd criticisms lobbied against something under the guise of being fair. Imagine having created the work in question and dealing with that sort of thing, especially through blatant misunderstandings such as those. Passion is unpredictable. In the case of this call that I've referenced, there was clearly passion regarding the game which manifested rather bitterly. I think that should be recognized. There's something to be said for a game which can inspire that kind of passion despite supposedly being so unrelentingly terrible, but I digress. In my own experience, passion is incredibly volatile. The video you're watching right now is basically an offshoot of an idea I had all the way back in late 2018, and only now, nearly 3 years later, is it coming to fruition. It's not remotely the same form as it was once supposed to have, but conceptually it's still very similar. Either way, it's very easy to forget what goes into these projects, and I'm glad that Running Shine's Y2K video made a point of that. Although they were very harsh on the game, they clearly held respect for the devs as they reasonably should. I often give things the benefit of the doubt, and I'd really like to see others do the same. It's easy to assume, for example, that the contradictions to Y2K's supposed time period are the result of incompetency. It's less easy to put pieces together and interpret it as an intentional move by the devs. It doesn't help that this is never clearly confirmed in the game. Unfortunately, the easiest path isn't always the right one. In this case, I mean that very literally. It's verifiably false unless you're willing to argue that an unedited comment from years before release was somehow bullshit. Looking at my past, one could be forgiven for considering me a hypocrite regarding all of this. In fact, I may very well still be a hypocrite. I'm no stranger to making fun of people for pursuing things that, while weird, make them happy. What a life I'd lead, then, that I've effectively produced that exact same sort of thing just a month ago. While the intent behind it isn't the same as the things I've made fun of, the contents are undeniably similar and the subject matter basically an exact match. I'm refraining from mentioning specifics for obvious reasons, but my point stands. I've changed my view on creative expression a good deal, to the point where I've done something strikingly similar to those I've made fun of in the past. I think I still have some work to do in that regard, but I'm definitely getting there and I'd consider it an improvement. I can only hope that more people will feel the same way. I'm not going to be some kind of white knight for Y2K, but I think it's a fantastic example of this sort of thing. I've seen plenty of assumptions made about the game that paint it in a terribly negative light, and many simply aren't accurate whatsoever. It's a very antagonistic way to view media and seemingly throws out the idea that people made the game with good intentions. That doesn't mean it's bound to produce something of quality, but an incredibly common stance is that Y2K has lots of potential but squanders it all. In other words, this gives people an excuse to be incredibly harsh because they can say they're being nice by pointing out when the music sounds good. The game's just so bad that I can't help but treat it like this. It's an easy way to ignore nuance and falsely assume intent because you've convinced yourself that you're actually giving the devs the benefit of the doubt. I read a conversation the other day about what qualifies as art and what doesn't. It didn't go very far, but even the relatively surface-level points being made were a clear sign that such a discussion is utterly pointless. There's a video idea I had long ago that had a comparable concept, actually. People shouldn't worry about why something is the way it is, they should worry about what that entails. In that case, it was about transgender people, but I think it applies nicely here. Worrying about the definition of art is semantic and impractical, but you can get a lot out of examining it with an acceptance that it is art. And genuinely, is there anything wrong with examining art that isn't very good? Is there anything wrong with sincerely enjoying something that's commonly considered bad while not even disagreeing with that sentiment? I know this video has been rather unfocused and redundant, but I wrote this in one draft and wanted to get it out as quickly as possible. As I said earlier, passion is very fickle for me. There's no guarantee I would have finished this if I didn't do it in one night. And I have done it in one night. I only started writing this thing a few hours ago. To put it clearly, my point is that creating art is tough. Being able to put yourself out there like that is commendable, and the effort required to actually finish a work is quite great. If you take anything from this, it should be that you should avoid being blinded by bias. Be certain that you're examining something in good faith and doing so fairly. And most of all, play At Least There Is Cheda Chedovich.